gentlemen, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Demon. This is the ever-growing, always expanding, award-winning fan show. Got a great show for you tonight. A highly anticipated guest makes his official debut, and I say that because we technically did a segment together. It's one of the first video segments, and for Battlebots, that is, and that was down in LA, live and on location. So we will get to that later on this Battlebot season. It's not quite the time just yet. I'm thinking probably this next episode or the one after will be where you start to see the episodes where I was down there for the taping, and we'll start releasing those interviews that I did post-fight and from the pit. Some great content coming. I've been sitting on it for a while. I don't even know if I have like NDAs, but like I don't even want to spoil it for myself or for any of you. So we're getting ready for that. But he was gracious enough to stop by the Fan Cave studio today via phone. I guess I shouldn't say he stopped by the studio, but he was gracious enough to give us some of his time. We talked about season 3 so far, our favorite moments from this season, what is still yet to come, and then we played a fun little word association game. So you will not want to miss that interview. It's going to be coming up in a little bit, but of course we have our formalities here, which is to get through everything else that has happened today in the world of football and nonsense. And so with that, let's go to the headlines. Headlines, of course, brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises. Ethan does some dynamite work at Dynamite Enterprises. I'm serious. Like, if you can dream it, he can do it. If you can envision it, you can put your logo or artwork on it through Ethan at Dynamite Enterprises. A fan show has shirts and a lot of other merchandise that's going to be coming out courtesy of Ethan and Dynamite Enterprises. So that's going to be a whole hell of a lot of fun. And then, of course, he can do whatever you need to be done. If you need hats, if you need shirts, if you need foam fingers, trophies, screen print, embroidery, pants, polos, whatever, underwear even. If he can find a place to get the material, he can put the logo on it. Plain and simple. And he does a phenomenal job. I wouldn't give him free shout-outs on the show. Yeah, that's right. These are non-paid-for pops for Mr. Ethan. It's just I enjoy his relationship that much. Like, this is how good of a professional relationship we have that I'm saying, I'm just going to shout you out every time I think about it because I'm so pleased with the product. Speaking of pleased with the product, Zach Warchek, shout out to him and the guys of Elephant Gun Riot. Now, Zach is a media video whiz, right? And so he has helped a lot with the video content that you see for the fan show, specifically the stuff from when I was down for the tapings of Battlebots. He was able to polish those up real nice, make me look not so fat or stupid. It's no easy task, and you're going to see the finished results. So big shout out to him. He can do all your audio video needs as well. But don't forget about Ethan Dynamite Enterprises. Hit him up, Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com. And so we have the headlines today, which is that training camps have started, right? We know that this is the home stretch to a new NFL season when the training camps start, when they report. And 49ers have reported to the NFL training camp. And let's see what we have in store here for latest training camp news. Of course, the most recent news was Todd Gurley getting a contract. Le'Veon Bell, not so much. Tomlin saying he's done taking questions regarding Le'Veon Bell. Let's see. John Mara says the Giants haven't started contract negotiations with Odell Beckham Jr. Says they will begin sooner rather than later and will start pretty soon. Mara adds that he believes Beckham is moving in the right direction, and it meant something that he was at I'm assuming that at the training camp. It cuts off there at the end. Eagles placed Brandon Graham, Alshon Jeffrey, and Chris Marigot on active PUP, physically unable to participate. Eagles placed Timmy Jernigan and Bryce Treggs on active NFI. And then we have Browns trying out Bengals free agent cornerback Adam Pac-Man Jones on Friday. And then, let's see, Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott ready to make some noise after a quiet offseason. I bet he's ready to... You got to love the offseason after a hectic offseason, right? Interesting fact of the day. John Gruden and Oakland defensive end Khalil Mack have not spoken once since the Raiders hired their new head coach in January. No contact between two men who should be vital this season for the Raiders. There is a belief from some around the league that no matter the fines or the effect on his free agency, Aaron Darnold will not play another down on his existing contract. In other words, his holdout is likely to last until a new deal comes along. Really? Like, okay. Do what you got to do, man. That's per Adam Schefter. And then finally, so instead of being fined $40,000 a day for missing camp, Falcons Pro Bowl wide receiver Julio Jones will get a sweetened deal in 2018. That's right. Breaking news after we got off the air last night was that Julio Jones and the Falcons have agreed to terms of the new contract. Those terms yet to be released, but we've got fantasy football kickstarting, right? In indoor news, the National Arena League, Pasquale Vacchio is now a member of the Carolina Cobras. That's a good get for them. There was a car accident involving some of the Carolina Cobras yesterday, and I mean, if you saw the picture of this, you would have thought, oh my God, they all died. They did not. I think the worst was like a ruptured eardrum. I mean, holy crap, praise the Lord, they are okay. So good news all around out of the National Arena League. Jameis Winston asked fans to continue to support me. McCoy puts focus on team amidst the investigation. Big Ben, Arians to call Steelers-Browns Week 1 tilt. And then Carroll on absent Earl Thomas. Quote, he should be here. Redskins open three-way competition at running back. Giants, contract talks with Odell are coming soon. Chancellor out for 18. Hawks waive top pick in 17. Allen opens camp third on Bills quarterback depth. And Martavius reporting to Oakland, no suspension news. Now, let's take this one from the top here. Big Ben and Arians calls Steelers Week 1 tilt. So there will be no shortage of storylines leading up to the Steelers' regular season opener versus divisional rival Browns. This is per Chris Wessling. Big Ben revealed Thursday via Ed Boucher of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that former Cardinals coach and new CBS game analyst Bruce Arians is slated to broadcast Pittsburgh Week 1 matchup at Cleveland. CBS did not confirm the assignment to the Post-Gazette. Interesting to say the least, Roethlisberger offered. Why so interesting? Arians got his start as an NFL play-calling savant with the 2001-2003 Browns. In fact, he called the shots in the most memorable game of long-standing backup quarterback Kelly Holcomb's career, a 36-33 shootout loss during a snowy Pittsburgh afternoon in Cleveland's last postseason appearance. So, yeah, storyline, sure. To say there will be no shortage of storylines, no, that's a reach. Like, as somebody that is looking for legit storylines, that one's a reach, you know? And I'm not even the person that breaks a whole hell of a lot of news. Let's check in on Pete Carroll's comment on Earl Thomas. This one is per Herbie Tope. The Seattle Seahawks kicked off the first day of training camp practice Thursday with an expected absence. Safety Earl Thomas, who did not report Wednesday after skipping June's mandatory minicamp, is hoping for a new contract while the business side of football takes center stage surrounding one of the league's top safeties. Coach Pete Carroll found himself assessing the situation. Let's see here. found himself addressing Thomas's non-attendance following Thursday's practice. He should be here, and he's not, Carroll told reporters. Durr. Thomas enters the final year of his contract, which pays a base salary of $8.5 million. Thomas has been steadfast in his desire to not attend any team activities until his contract has been resolved, and an argument can be made he deserves a new deal. I believe he does. That's another no-brainer. I mean, look, this does not help your team. Holdouts do not help your team, and it comes down to whether or not you think that your player is worth the paycheck or not. And so it is what it is when it comes to each team. And for this situation, it's the Seahawks and Earl Thomas, which is probably the next biggest name on that roster next to Russell Wilson at this point. I mean, it's Russell Wilson and then Earl Thomas. Before that, it was probably Wilson, Lynch, Thomas, Chancellor, Sherman maybe, but 3 of those 5 are gone. So if you lose him, all you've got is your quarterback, which is a lot. Granted, it's a huge piece to have to this puzzle is to keep your franchise quarterback. But man, you win on defense. If you're Seattle, you win with defense and shutout defense, and he's a pivotal part of that. Might not be the same Legion of Boom that we're used to seeing, but he is part of that foundation. And if you can keep as much as you can, then you can. Let's see the Redskins 3-way competition at running back. It's a 3-for-all at running back, reports Jeremy Bergman. The Washington Redskins enter camp with a slew of questions on an offense full of new faces, but none is more pressing or presently unanswerable than who will start at tailback alongside dual threat virtuoso Chris Thompson. Jay Gruden doesn't have the answers yet, so coach is letting rookie runner Darius Juice, second-year Samaje Perine, and third-year option Robert Kelly battle it out this summer. I'd say Fat Rob, man, he's probably got it. It's a great 3-way competition, really, with Geese, obviously, Fat Rob, and Samaje. Gruden told reporters Thursday, per the Associated Press, it's very, very important to let these guys play it out. They've all shown flashes of being good football players at the running back position. And that really about sums it up for the headlines. I mean, the rest are, they are what they are. And I feel like that's like a go-to phrase right now, but it's absolutely true, It's... I mean, what more can you talk about? We've finally got our first taste, right? We're licking our chops a little bit, and basically it's all downhill from here. But now all those storylines that we wanted, we're going to start, and we're gonna get going, we're gonna get moving, and that'll be good. So that takes us to the portion of the show where the headlines have concluded. We will bring on special guest Kenny Florian, and we'll talk some Battlebots and some UFC. We have a fun little game at the end of our segment, so we will go to commercial break, and when we come back, UFC legend turned Battlebots commentator Kenny Florian on The Fan Show. You're listening to The Fan Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The Fan Show!
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons, like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com, or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now is the man, the myth, the legend himself. From the octagon to the battle box, it is Kenny Florian. How you doing, Kenny?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing great, man. A pleasure to have you on. I haven't seen you since the tapings, and you and I had a pretty good conversation at that time, which I'll have to post up on the website once we get to that point in the season. But, hey, been a great Season 3. Definitely started off with a bang, Minotaur and Tombstone. How do you feel from a commentary standpoint, from a fan standpoint, of how Battlebots Season 3 on Discovery has gone?
This season's been amazing. Again, I was really taken aback just by how great all the teams were and how inventive and creative they were. I think everyone really came together to bring the best bot that they could in the time that was allowed. And, for a lot of these bot builders, they didn't have a whole lot of time. But the way that they approach this season, you could see their passion, you could see their willingness to want to win it all. And I was just really impressed with all the teams. Every year, and it's the way it should be in all forms of combat, things are always improving. Teams are getting better. Robots are becoming more dangerous. They're getting bigger and badder, and it was a whole lot of fun because of it. We got a lot of great fights.
Yeah, been a great variety, obviously, with the fight card format and sort of a season now before the actual tournament. So you get a regular season and then a postseason, and that's been really one of the focal points of this season is more than just a possibility of being one and done. But now I've talked to a lot of the bot builders. This is testing their depth, so to speak, with how well they're prepared to go the distance for multiple fights. And then, of course, if they should get into the tournament beyond that. What's seeing the season play out like this with bots getting more than just, one fight and having a regular season? How has that been received in your mind as far as from outside looking in, and then, of course, the Battlebots community?
Well, it was a lot of awesome, but it was also some bad, repercussions as well. Not necessarily bad. It was just more challenging for the bot builders and the teams because obviously it's a grueling season. Every fight, these bots are taking serious damage. It's a lot of pressure on these teams and bot builders to get everything back up and running in a short amount of time. So the great part about it, and this was really great, was the fact that we got all these fights that we wanted to see. All the dream matches that we wanted to see, any rematches that we wanted to see, they were made possible by the matchmakers. So that was the great part about it. And we had so many memorable moments this season and many more to come. But the challenging part of it was, there was a lot of pressure on these bot builders. And like anything, you run out of parts eventually, you run out of manpower or whatever it is. You can only do so much to your bot to get it ready for the next fight. And it was hard on a lot of these bots and a lot of these bot builders, man. They really put in serious overtime. And sometimes they just weren't able to get their bots up and ready just due to the damage that they incurred for each and every fight.
Yeah, now I've described it to a lot of people that aren't aware of what Battlebots is it's robotics meets WWE or UFC, with the pit kind of being like the NASCAR aspect. So I've been curious about how different ideas came about. You having the UFC background that you do, did anyone from the producers or anyone at Discovery approach you about like, hey, what do you think of a fight card format, or do you know how that originated as far as the idea?
I think they wanted to bring something a little bit different for this season. I think more importantly, I think for the matchmakers and the producers, they're fans as well, and they wanted to see a lot of these great fights and give it to the fans right off the bat. Because in the tournament thing, what we found is, sometimes we didn't get to see those matchups that we really wanted to see, so I think that, for the producers, for the matchmakers, they wanted to deliver those great fights right off the bat in case they didn't happen in the tournament. So, I think that's why they wanted to bring something different. Now, as far as our feedback, sure, they did ask us what we thought about certain things. A lot of times they didn't make it happen, but they were, of course, asking our feedback on what we thought about the tournament and the single fight format, and we really loved it, and I think it turned out great. I thought it was an awesome idea.
Yeah, I think the season has gone fantastic so far, obviously on a little bit of a break because of Shark Week, and of course, that's Discovery's big thing each summer, and then we're going to get into the home stretch of it. Now, Logan Davis of Sub-Zero and I talked last week about how, there was an outcome of a fight that I honestly disagreed with, and it was before we even heard your thoughts on it. It was that, I want to say, the Scorpios and was it... Ice Wave, that it went sort of the other way, and you said, if you're making all the aggression but I'm landing all the hits, like, who really wins that fight? And so I said, maybe since there's 3 judges, there should be the one with the Battlebots experience, which you have, the celebrity, which is going to be more of a fan perspective, which you have, but that third one, maybe something that has a bit more of a background like yours from UFC, boxing, whatever, that can kind of give that perspective to the other judges.
It's not a bad idea. I think it's not a bad idea. And, in our sport, in the UFC, we talk about it all the time. I mean, you get these judges sometimes, and they do come from a certain, martial arts background. Sometimes they don't. Many times they do not, believe it or not. But, we don't get the right decisions. And listen, it's competition. It's a sporting event. It's combat sports. It's all that combined. You're going to get some bad decisions from time to time. And I feel for the bot builders, right? Yeah. I mean, if the decision goes the wrong way, but unfortunately, I feel it's just kind of the nature of the beast. There's a lot of things we can do to tweak this and tweak that, but yes, while I do think that would help and it'd be make it a little bit more fair, I think that's a fantastic idea. I think controversial decisions when it comes to combat sports or any kind of sport it's just always going to be there, right? Our perspectives are always going to be different on varying subjects.
Now, do you watch this with any sort of different, set of eyes than you would a UFC match? Because although similar, they are very different. I wanted to know what part of BattleBots you love the most.
I guess it's just because, I haven't, built a robot before, and a lot of times, we don't know exactly what is going to happen or how these robots are going to collide and what primary weapon is going to hit what part of the bot. To me, there is such an excitement and a nervous energy that is just it's fun. It really is genuinely fun. I have a blast calling those fights, and sometimes because of my background in mixed martial arts or martial arts and fighting, when I watch a mixed martial arts fight, I love it. I have that same kind of nervous energy, that same kind of excitement, but the mystery of it, maybe because I know so much about it, the mystery of it is kind of taken out. So in that way, when I'm watching a BattleBots fight, there is a certain magic and mystery that is there that makes it that much more fun in some ways.
What's been your favorite knockout so far? I said last night on the show that mine has been the Son of Waiachi and Monsoon that we saw recently, just because of how epic that was.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, any of the fights that Tombstone is involved in as well, crazy. But certainly that fight with Son of Waiachi was up there on the list so far. I mean, that was pretty epic, man. And it's crazy because as loud as it might be on television, when you're there right next to the battle box, it is scary, and it is way louder and way more intense than television can possibly transfer. So it's it's fun.
All right, well, the last couple of minutes here, I wanted to do a fun little word association game, if you will, and that was when I was down there for the tapings, I talked with your co-commentator, Chris Rose, and I asked what bot was the most Kenny Florian-esque, and he said, well, there's no bot with great hair, but he would have to say probably Petunia. So for you, what I wanted to do now is I'm going to say a bot, and whether it's their driver, their weapon, what the bot itself, or even their color scheme, their gimmick, I'm going to say a bot. You tell me the first UFC fighter, past or present, that comes to mind when I say that bot. We'll start out with an easy one. Okay. Tombstone.
Oh, man. Let's see. Let's go with trying to think of like the hardest hitting guy of all time. I mean, Francis Ngannou, but it's not the same because Tombstone is like such a beast where Ngannou just kind of has that one thing. He's kind of like a one-hit wonder. Tombstone, not necessarily the case. Geez. How about Conor McGregor? How's that?
Hey, there we go. I was wondering if we were going to get a Conor shout.
There's the cockiness. There's the ability to knock you out at any time. I like that one.
Ray Billings does do the heel rather well.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Next one, Lockjaw, and Don Hudson's Lockjaw.
Interesting. Let's go with a kind of George St. Pierre, a bot that is very, capable in a variety of ways. There's some different configurations you can do in there. There's a lot of intelligence involved in the approach. Yeah, let's go with that. And he's been around forever.
Oh yeah, that's a great pick too. How about Sawblaze?
Sawblaze. Let's see. He's kind of like the new kid on the block, but a tremendous amount of potential. Was finishing a lot of these guys, and there's tremendous driving involved, and he's a tactician. Let's go with the 145-pound champ, Max Holloway, the Hawaiian fighter.
Yeah, there we go. All right, Ice Wave.
Ice Wave. Aha. All right. Let's see. This is a guy who's been around for a long time. If he catches you, you are in big, big trouble. But he gets his hiccups here and there. He has his hiccups here and there. Let's go with Jeremy Stevens. He's actually fighting this weekend. He's a very powerful 145-pounder who's very close to getting to a title shot. I think that'd be a pretty good analogy.
All right, last two, Blacksmith.
Blacksmith. Always involved in exciting fights, but doesn't always get the nod. Let's see. There's a guy named Darren Elkins. Darren the Damage Elkins. Maybe not all the hardcore mixed martial arts fans or UFC fans know him, but every time he fights, he puts on a show that he can take a beating.
I thought maybe like Forrest Griffin. He was always one of my favorite.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
for sure. And everybody knows him. Yes, that actually would be more appropriate. Probably.
Okay, last but certainly not least, Battle Royale with Cheese.
Oh, that's funny. I'm trying to think, man. Jeez. Battle Royale with Cheese. I'm trying not to insult anyone here. Let's see. Let's go with Tom Lawler. He is a good fighter. But he's there to really put on a show. He's there to entertain. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
Is there a Chris Rosebot, since he obviously said that you were Petunia?
I would say he's Battle Royale with Cheese. How's that? He tried to insult me. I'll say that. That's him. That's Chris Rose.
All right. Well, he is Kenny Florian from the Octagon to the Battlebots. You guys do a terrific job on commentary. Very well done. Glad that you enjoy it as much as we do. But, hey, thank you so much for taking the time, Kenny. I look forward to hopefully speaking with you again. But, hey, enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of the season.
I appreciate it, brother. It's going to be a fun one.
All right. I'll talk to you later. And once again, big thank you to Kenny Florian of Battlebots. UFC, you can still catch him. He does a lot of UFC stuff from the analyst standpoint. Great insight, as you could tell from his comparisons with the different bots and the different fighters. Look, if you guys love UFC, if you love WWE, there's no reason why you will not love Battlebots, plain and simple. If they can turn someone, which might be a terrible way to put it, but if they can turn someone like Kenny Florian and make him a legit fan of bot-on-bot action, which is not sexual even in the slightest, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's robot fighting time, and metal on metal. You got saws, hammers, blades, giant cheeseburgers with spinning bacon. Like, there's a bot for everyone, just like there's a UFC fighter or a wrestler with everyone, which is part of the reason why we love those sports. It's why NASCAR is such a beloved sport as well, because everyone has their one car, right? Their one driver. With wrestling, the one wrestler. With UFC, the one fighter. With Battlebots, the one bot. Now, you can like multiple, sure, but this isn't a team sport where you have to feel like, do I follow the player or the team? Like, what do I do? Like, if the team does well, it may not be because of my favorite player. And if they do bad, it might actually be because of my favorite player. This isn't like that. You have the one that you can cheer for. And with Battlebots, the perfect way that it was described to me while I was down there was it was some of the most gruesome carnage in one-on-one combat that didn't involve men screaming or blood smeared across a canvas, So for those of you looking for a family-friendly event to watch where you can see the guts get knocked out of a bot from a giant spinning blade, you need to tune into Battlebots, okay? Every Friday on the Discovery Channel. New episodes coming up next week, August the... what is that? August the 3rd? Yeah, at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. And then, of course, it re-airs on the Science Channel each Wednesday, the following Wednesday, with bonus content. But it is Shark Week. We saw Shark Oprion in the last Battlebots fight, and that was a really good matchup. It just wasn't one that, I kind of thought it would have been a bit more entertaining than it actually was. But, it is what it is. The last fight that we had was Bronco versus Duck. Bronco with an outstanding performance. He stays undefeated. Duck, though, such a fan favorite, and will have to really put up a fight to get into the 16 tournament. I am going to binge watch all the episodes up to the most recent one. Now that we have a week in between this right now and the next new episode, and I'm going to, based on everything that I see there, my weekly top 10s, put together the top 16 who I believe would be in the tournament as of right now. And that means that I would only technically do 15 because the 16th spot is reserved for the winner of the Desperado tournament. And that is, a tournament within a tournament, right? You got to win in that one just to get into the next one and then win your way through with the odds very much stacked against you. So Battlebots will be back next week. So excited for that. And this weekend we've got Mxpx, whose new album just dropped, I think Tuesday. Today's Thursday. Yeah, so Tuesday. I, of course, contributed to their Kickstarter, so I got the notification for the download. I love it. I reached out to Mike earlier today, last minute, to see if maybe he could give us a few minutes here on the show about the album and before their big weekend starting tomorrow night in Seattle at the Showbox. But he's already booked with enough press to go around right now. I said, hey, no worries. He said, but don't worry, I will be on the show again soon, just not right now. I said, hey, man, you do you. I mean, this is your baby. And in a statement from Mr. Herrera regarding the new album. In fact, I'll read it right here. I had some questions for him about this. It says, we put everything we got into this one. This, to me, feels like Mxpx. It's how we sound. It's how we feel. We made the record we wanted to make, and our fans helped us do it. I love it. I know we love it as a group. I hope you do too. Our new record is now available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Google Play, iTunes, and just about everywhere you can search. And I want to know, was it a series of moments? Was it a single moment that made him say, wow, this is Mxpx? Because this is album number 10. And not a lot of bands get to a 10th album. Last year was their 25th anniversary. So we're on year 26, 10 albums later. And he finally feels that like this is the most true to heart Mxpx album that they've ever made. Now, that might be something that you say after each album, but we all know that when bands get picked up and the record companies have certain requirements that they're like, we need it to sound like this. What you had envisioned can then become sort of, well, I guess that's for a side project then. Trust me, I'm a former drummer. We talk to labels. We talk to managers all the time. And I know guys that got signed, that went and had records made with major labels and stuff. And it's no easy feat. Basically, it comes down to this. You make an album in your garage, right? Garage band. You make an album with your group and you put 10 on there. And you go, you play shows, you put in the time, your own money. Everything is on your dime. You play every dive bar and every dinky stage in your area and then some. However far you can get from selling merch from one night to the next, right? So you do that. Someone comes across your music, whether it's your EP that you gave out to somebody or a video online. I mean, we live in the 21st century, so there's a few different ways to be discovered. But then a music exec with a label comes up to you and says, hey, so here's what I've got for you. We like you, your band, your sound. We like this album. So we want to give you X amount of dollars, probably a very hefty sum. It would include your studio time. It would pay for you to miss that time at work. I mean, basically, this is the next step to having this be your career. We're going to give you this much money, and of these 10 songs, we like this one. And we're going to give you a deadline of, let's say, 60 days from now to write and record 10 new songs that sound like this one song. Like, you need to put together a whole new album around the sound of this one song. It's ridiculous. And I'm sure that if the dollar amount is right, that guys can do it. Very artistically gifted individuals can pull it off. But man, the struggle is very real in the music industry, which is why I encourage everybody to support local in every facet. Support local businesses, local bars, restaurants, food chains, local bands. Just if you can support them and they're from your neck of the woods, do it, because it means a world of difference to them. Anybody can go to a Best Buy for their electronic needs, but maybe there's a guy called, Big Mike who has electronics as well, and he's just trying to get a start. And his prices are probably like half that of a Best Buy. Go to him. And anybody can go to an Applebee's, but does everybody have like a Joe's? You know, I know there's Joe's all over the country, but you get what I'm saying here. Like the local businesses need you more than the big name business, and the local bands, the local artists, the local musicians, local athletes, all of them need your support more than the others do. So support local. I'm very happy for Mike Herrera and the rest of Mxpx. I do not know if I'm going to be able to make it over to Seattle tomorrow night. There's some things that need my attention here. I've got a wedding Saturday. I mean, I was supposed to be headed to Jacksonville tomorrow for one of the final stops of the Fan Show tour, and I do not believe that is going to happen. Obviously, the plane ticket's not even booked. But, of course, I am setting my sights on the National Arena League Championship. But this is my struggle, and it's very real. If it was on anybody else's dime but mine, I could probably pull off a lot of things. You know, I could fly to Seattle tomorrow and not have to worry about, can I get off work early enough to drive 4.5 hours over there just to, you know, risk the pass, traffic, whatever. You know, if I had sponsorship say, hey, yeah, it's part of your music division, we want you to go cover this and have it on your show, then maybe I could do a hop and a skip over there on a plane, you know, a little puddle jumper and make it. But it's a tough gig when it's on your own dime. So I know the struggle, I respect the struggle, and I will always support local. So that's my little, you know, rant. It obviously started out talking about Mike Herrera and Mxpx's brand new album, but you should go and you should get it now. It is a great listen. I wouldn't steer you guys wrong. And obviously Mike feels very good about it. A lot of thank yous in that post, but they're going to be playing at the Showbox tomorrow in Seattle, and then also they've got a show in Portland, Oregon the next night. So the 27th and the 28th, Mxpx is on the road in the Northwest. If you are in any of those areas or can make it within reason, do it. And then, of course, check Mxpx on their social media to see if they're coming to a city near you. It's the summer season, right? It's the season of concerts. There's a lot of good ones. So we've talked Battlebots, that covers robotics. We've talked NFL, that covers the sports. We've talked music, that covers the music. I guess Mxpx, that covers the music. Wrestling, we got SummerSlam coming up, which... whoop-de-doo, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Smackdown is seriously dominating WWE right now as far as like which brand, which show is better. Like they can hype it up that Raw is the show, but it's not. Plain and simple, SmackDown is the place to be. NXT is the next one, and then Raw in third place because it's Roman Reigns and company is what they really should rename Monday Night Raw to. It is what it is. They will be having their first ever all women's pay-per-view called Evolution in October. That was a big announcement from this week in the world of wrestling. Now, I'm all for this. I've been very supportive of the women and the push for them to be treated as equals in this because for so long they were a gimmick, they were a joke, they were cheerleaders, right? Bra and panties matches, which I'll admit I kind of miss. Pillow fights, bikini contests, whatever. Like they were the cheerleader of the WWE world, and I'm not saying that in a knock to cheerleaders. I'm just saying that like the team goes out and plays and has a direct impact on the outcome of the game. You are there to support that team in that game as a cheerleader, right? And so this is just the flash and flare. That's what they were. No more. They are superstars. They are women or female superstars, and they perform just as well, if not better, than their male counterparts. And so when they did the first Iron Man, or Iron Woman, I should say, and then the Hell in a Cell, Steel Cage, I supported all that. I think all of that is great. Like, about time. And then they did the first ever women's Royal Rumble, and I was very happy about that. It even was the main event of that pay-per-view. But now they're going to do an all-women's pay-per-view, which maybe this is sort of in, to make up for the fact that they were not allowed to be in Saudi Arabia for that big event. I just don't want to see more of this because the point of equality is to be included, not segregated, not separate. So you push the scales so that they balance, but then if you keep pushing them, well, now you have the scales tipped in the other direction. So sure, have your pay-per-view, have your all-female pay-per-view, that's fine, but I hope that this is the only time, because what would the point be of doing more of this? Because you've gone from having them be separate and definitely not equal to now they're doing all the same things that the men are, and they're doing it very well. So now they are on a level playing field. They're main eventing, they're headlining. Why do you need to exclude the men now? Like I didn't think that was the point of this journey. I didn't. And I'm not saying that as a man, like I'm offended. I'm just saying, if it was the opposite, like if the tables were turned, trust me, like this would be, oh, so the women are excluded now. Like I feel like it's, flirting with a fine line that shouldn't even be there, So that's my thoughts on the women's movement, evolution of the world of wrestling. I think it'll be a great event. I really do. I think they'll put on a hell of a show. And hopefully it's just to make up for the fact that they weren't allowed to be in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, which I thought was a stupid decision by WWE to begin with. But let's continue the progress forward with equality and treating each other for their value and not for what we believe their value is, okay? So inclusive, not exclusive. There we go. And that's really going to do it for this Thursday edition of the Fan Show. One more thing I did want to touch on real quick are the big matchups this weekend for the National Arena League, so we're going to loop it back around to sports. Outdoors, not much to talk about on the front of outdoors. I do have some outdoorsy stuff coming up, and so that'll be a lot of fun. We'll have content for that. August is the time when we're going to relaunch the site. We're going to officially put live the new Fan Show divisions. I'm looking for writers. I do enjoy writing myself occasionally, but it's too much for me to do by myself, especially with divisions and with the upcoming NFL season. So if you would like to contribute to the Fan Show site, hit me up. We'll have to have a discussion. We'll have to see, a sample of your writing. But we've got something for everybody: robotics, wrestling, music, pop culture. Speaking of which, Skyscraper from Dwayne Johnson is apparently a global hit right now. Didn't do very well in the U.S. domestically, but internationally, that thing is slaying in theaters. So good for him. Good on him. This weekend, we have on Saturday the Massachusetts Pirates going to the Shark Tank to take on the Jacksonville Sharks. This is a huge game because right now in the standings, we have the Pirates all alone, 10-4, and then the Sharks nipping at their heels 9-5. You lose this one to the Sharks. Now there's a tie between the two of you. I forget how the records are between them right now, but this will be the final matchup between the two before pending the postseason. Then you have Carolina really needing to get a win back. They will have that opportunity in Lehigh Valley against the Steelhawks Saturday as well. And then the red-hot Maine Mammoths, man, they will go to Columbus to take on the Lions, who, honestly, they're probably still licking those wounds after blowing what was the biggest deficit in 2018 for the NAL, allowing the Sharks to come back and win. Then next week, the Lions and Cobras. So we've got great matchups with a whole lot of postseason potential, including the Maine Mammoths, who are looking to play a little bit of spoiler for some of these teams. They'll have that opportunity against the Lions in Columbus. So Saturday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, I realized this weekend that my site, or when I bring up the NAL site, that it's actually put into West Coast time because that's where I'm at. So good on them. That's not like the IFL site. So at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on Saturday, you will see 3 great matchups between the Pirates and the Sharks, Cobras and the Steelhawks, and the Mammoths and the Lions. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, National Arena League, and hit subscribe and hit the notifications button as well so you don't miss any of the action, because there will be plenty of it. So that really is going to do it now officially for the Fan Show this week. Another great week, short week, but we've got one more episode for the already record-holding, record-breaking month of July, and I cannot thank you guys enough. Don't forget, the Fan Show is now officially, that's right, it is Fan Show Official on Spotify. Go and search The Fan, that's F-A-N with the periods in between, on Spotify, and subscribe. If that's your jive, if that's your flavor, we've got it for you. Fan Show comes in a variety of flavors, including iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course, Spreaker.com, where you can listen live or subscribe in podcast form. Then you can listen live on thefanshow.com. We are on all major platforms of social media, including Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and even Snapchat. That's right. The Snapchat and Instagram are simply The Fan Show. Facebook.com/The Fan Show Official. Go and give us a like. We're, I think, 50 away from 1,000. Like, holy cow, 1,000 likes on Facebook. Never thought I'd see the day. And you can give us a follow on the Twitters at Fan Show Official. So, from the bottom of my heart, folks, Fan Nation, Team Fan Show, whatever it is that you guys are, I love you. I really do. Thank you so much for your continued support. We're going to be back better than ever next week with a whole new slate of Fan Show episodes as we charge headfirst into the month of August, which sadly marks the kind of the start of the end of summer, right? We're already halfway through, over the hump. And with that, I want to thank you once again. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.